All right, welcome. Sorry about all the technical delays. Jeez Louise.
Oh, man.
That was a nightmare.
Yeah.
F it, we'll just do it live.
Yeah.
All right, welcome. Oh, there you go.
Oh, there it is.
All right.
No more difficulties? Okay, we're good.
All right. Sorry to leave you guys all hanging there. I'm Robert from Machado Visuals. This is Jeremy Lee.
Hello.
Today we have a very special guest with us today. I'm super excited for this camera.
Dude, we've been waiting for so long.
I think we've all been waiting.
Yeah, we've all
super
been
long.
waiting.
Yeah, let's just jump into it. You want to do the honors?
Oh, man. Me? Okay, sure. Why not?
So you had the A7S too.
I did, yes.
And what were your thoughts on that camera?
I personally love that camera. And yeah, there was a lot of learning curves to that camera, but once you do get through it, dude, I love it. And yeah, it is a little bit difficult to use sometimes, but you know, you gotta understand your tools to be able to do what you need to do. Yeah,
I never owned the A7S II. I actually didn't really like using that camera, honestly, just because
I don't blame you.
The usability factor was kind of annoying for me. That screen was not the biz.
Yeah.
This screen.
Now this screen.
That's the biz.
That is the biz. Wait for it.
Oh,
my God.
Oh
my God.
Oh
what?
my goodness.
Yeah. Dude.
It's crazy that we're so excited over
I know, right?
the simple novelty of a flip-out screen.
It's Sony.
Yeah, so I'm super excited about this camera. You know, we've all been waiting for this for years, and now that I'm basically neck deep in Sony land right now.
Dude, you are so in Sony.
So it only makes sense for me to get this camera.
Yeah, for sure.
I have now 2 FX9s, so I'm using those all the time. So I always say the best B camera is another A camera, so that's why I got a second FX9. So it'll be interesting to see where this kind of plays in, but also like for a lot of those gigs where I don't necessarily need all the bells and whistles of a fully featured FX9, that's where this kind of comes into play. Like I could fit 2 of these bodies really easily in a small little, whether it be like a 1510 or like a rolling bag, and
carry-on.
And this does basically everything the FX9 does.
Even if you have just a backpack, you can definitely fit two kits in here.
Yeah, a whole backpack.
Yeah,
I
that's
wouldn't
crazy.
want to do that with an FX. Like you could, but like
you can do anything you want.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to. But yeah, my biggest thing with this camera is the form factor and like just the overall ergonomics, and that's one of the reasons I just hated the A7S II is because the ergonomics were like kind of a nightmare. It's almost like when you think of the Pocket, the Blackmagic Pocket cameras. It's like, yeah, they create great footage and it like looks really nice, but you kind of have to work a little bit to get there. So with this one, it has the newer battery. The EVF is insane. It looks really nice. The screen, also the screen, obviously the flip out function, but also
dude, these port doors.
Yeah,
they're doors. They're not flaps.
So if we like, you can punch into there. They're not just shitty just flaps that just go all over the place. They actually close. That's the one thing. Also, like again with the Pocket, like it has those kind of flaps.
Yeah.
And I just straight up ripped them off. But with these, like
same on my A7S.
Yeah,
too.
the A7S. Usually, a lot of people just rip these off. These are actual nice kind of doors.
Yeah.
Which I kind of really appreciate. And also, when you take a look at the buttons, I know you can't really feel buttons over a stream, but the buttons are so like tactile and like punchy. I don't know if that's the best way to describe it, but this joystick is incredible. It feels I'm assuming it's similar to the A7R4, which I have not played with yet, but yeah, it's a killer little camera. Let's find a battery. There should be actually a battery in there. Let's see if I have a charger. And throw a lens on there.
I'll pull the rest of the accessories out. Is this the same battery as the R series?
Yeah, the Z batteries. So I actually really enjoy those batteries. When I was using my A7R3 a lot, I would go through a whole day and use like 2.5 batteries. And again, going back to like ergonomics and like usability, like the A7S II, like those smaller batteries that last what, an hour, maybe an hour.
On the A7S II?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not even.
Yeah. So like,
especially when you're recording like at the full frame like 4K setting.
right.
Even at 24 frames, I think I got maybe 35 minutes.
Yeah, don't sleep on these newer chunky boys. These are super nice. And Sony actually has like a quad bay. It's like a charger, but you can also plug it into the camera and use 4 of them at the same time. I actually have one of those, and I used them a handful of times on my A7R III. Let's see actually if this has any charge.
So that was one of my biggest gripes with the A7S II was the battery life, and I always had to rig mine up bigger with either a plate for NPF batteries or
right. You always
gold
had to use some sort of like external power source. So being able to carry around like 4 of these and get through well over a whole day, like. That's what I'm saying. Like all you need is this small body.
You don't have to rig it up if you don't want to, which I wouldn't want to anyway.
Exactly. So like a lot of people, they're like super excited for this camera. They're about to throw on all their cages, all their whatever. Me personally, this is how the camera's gonna live.
Yeah.
Maybe obviously put like some kind of plate on there, but I'm not planning on doing a lot with this.
Yeah.
And
that's because you have other tools in yours.
Right,
arsenal.
yeah, so it's like, picking up. Also, a small little feature that I really appreciate, as you take out the camera, as you literally unbox the camera, it's set already in movie mode. So I thought that was a nice little touch.
Yeah, they're trying to say something.
Yeah, so, but like with that, with different tools, it's interesting. This is such a stone in the pond that it has, like, more recording modes out of the box than the FX9 does.
That it does, yeah.
In terms of frame rates and stuff like that, which is wild. And autofocus and all that pizzazz. This battery is in charge, so I'm going to grab one really quick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like with these small form factor cameras, it's just great to have a small cam to just grab and go with, as compared to, doing work with an FX9 or a FS7.
There have been so many times where I've wanted to, like, just bring out some small camera. And usually for a lot of times the Pocket solved that for me. But with the Pocket didn't have great, battery life. You needed external power. And with this, it's just a tiny little unassuming body, and now you have autofocus with it and the low light.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a great B camera for the FX9, obviously. I know that I have 2, but
you want to set all your stuff.
Let me just get through these settings, and then we'll actually be able to plug this into the stream. What's the date? September 29th?
Yeah.
2020.
For me personally, when I'm doing easy or like something quick, where you just bring out a camera and shoot some stuff, I much prefer using documentary style cameras or cine cameras where all the controls and everything you need are built into a small body. So like the FX9, where timecode is on the body itself and you don't need the back like the FS7 does, having a small form factor like that with XLRs built in and
NDs.
Yeah, NDs built in. Like, it's so much easier to do that than to rig up one of these to do on one of those jobs. But now with the battery life on the A7S III, and like if you want to use any XLR mics, then you just get the X3M, right?
Yeah, the K3M. Actually, I bought one since I got to I got this camera, so for those smaller gigs, that's what I'm planning on doing for audio.
Yeah.
Just putting on the XLR little attachment there.
So all you need are NDs and maybe a top handle if you want to go a little bit higher than that.
Alex says regarding this, the what from the FX9? You're not feeling it. You're not feeling something from the FX9. Not sure what you mean there. So yeah, it'd be great for gigs that require 2 bodies, because at this point, because we've actually been doing a lot of stuff, that exact thing, where we've been just doing like interview stuff, like really easy interview stuff with
Talking heads.
So I'll bring out 2 FX9 bodies, which is by no means not a big deal, but like, how many cases is that? That's like 2.
Yeah, 2 cases.
Yeah, well, I mean, that doesn't even sound bad.
Yeah, 2, one 1560 and
yeah, like a fat like Pelican about this big, and then another 1510 for lenses.
Yeah.
But if I can just shrink all of that down
into a 1510 carry on,
a single 1510 for a 2-camera package, dude, that's pretty hard
crazy.
to beat.
And the support that goes with it, because you don't need to bring out like your bigger tripods. You can just have small, lightweight ones.
Right, exactly. So the FX9 is actually pretty light, so I feel kind of comfortable using smaller tripods. I mean, that's what we've been doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can use even smaller ones with this guy, excluding Manfrotto. Don't use Manfrotto. I'm pretty anti-Manfrotto.
I mean,
Manfrotto, whatever.
Same.
Low light, obviously, low light's pretty crazy. I was actually, I don't know if you guys saw Moment. Moment put out a good video on when they just got their camera. That stuff looked pretty crazy, and they actually put out a few clips for download. And I was getting into Resolve, and I was grading a few of them. And the 10-bit 422 footage grades so nicely.
Yeah,
like,
dude, just the fact that they have 422 10-bit internal, that still blows my mind on a full-frame camera.
422 10-bit internal with and the higher recording rates at 120.
Yeah, at 120.
So
what?
that's
so 120 is still in 422 10-bit?
Mm-hmm.
What?
It's pretty well. The FX9 can't even do that.
Yeah,
so that's what I'm saying. Like,
but you can do a 5-second clip at most before it overheats.
This camera is such it's such a stone in the pond where it's like, especially with the new FX6 coming out, it's like, what's Sony? How is Sony going to dumb that camera down enough to where like it can what are they going to leave out? Because something like this at 3500, you get 422 10-bit. Like, what is the FX6 going to do? Are they going to do 4K 8-bit?
To me, that sounds like a Canon philosophy on their lineup, and Sony isn't adhering to that, or at least they're not similar in that regard, because it seems like they're making all these features available in all of their camera bodies, and it's just picking the form factor of how you want to work, basically. Essentially, that's like, I feel like that's what Sony's new philosophy is like. And
one thing I've also noticed, like I'm sure you guys have all seen the FX6, the pictures. If you look on the body, there's no autofocus setting, so it's like, I don't know if they're going to leave that out, but at the same time, this has everything the FX9 does. Like, why wouldn't they put that in the FX6? So it's like,
I don't think they're going to leave it out on the FX6.
Right, exactly. So it's like, what would be the selling point? Like, why would I want an FX9 over an FX6? Like, I don't know. I have so many questions and I need answers.
Yeah, that's real interesting. Or maybe it's going to have what the FX9 has right now, and then FX9 will get firmware updates for more stuff.
Oh yeah, Alex. I get your comment now. I'm not a fan of Sony skin tones. I'm not a fan.
Okay. All right.
It's not for me.
User error.
Anyways, I can't wait to see you cut it with FX9. Me too. I actually we're on another job on Thursday, so maybe.
I mean, you want to test it out?
Also, another thing. And this is kind of related more so to the industry. So, like, obviously, I love being able to bring out 2 FX9s because I work with a kind of a company agency here that basically they just kind of send us out and be like, hey, go here, film this, blah, blah, blah. We'll send to producer. So it's like, and usually a lot of it's like, talking head stuff, light B-roll. And usually we are able to just kind of bring what we like using. What we like, we generally like industry standard stuff. So usually for the most part, I'll just bring on FX9s. And so I can tell you right now, I reviewed my FX9 like financial report or whatever last night. I've already made all of my money back on my first camera before the end of the year, which is pretty wild. So, like. And
how long have you had it?
I've had it since January, so less than a year. It's already paid off. So at this point, any rentals I get off of that are profit. So it'll be, because I really like getting the FX9 rental, especially when I did it to two camera packages. This will obviously be a lower rental, So I'm like, it's at this point, it seems like more of a convenience thing. It's like, you know, do I want to bring out two FX9?
Oh, I don't know. Golly.
Or do I, you know, switch over
Yeah.
to these? But I think probably for Thursday, we might actually end up trying these out just because I'm really keen on seeing all that stuff. One of the things that it would be super cool if this camera had was Cinetone, because basically for that production,
So it doesn't have it.
It doesn't have Cinetone, but it does have if you just leave picture profiles off. I mean, it looks fantastic. It looks super good. And you can, you know, Brandon Lee did that great video. I'm sure you guys everyone's seen. And he was just straight up no picture profile, and he tweaked the settings a little bit, but it looked wonderful. How often do you use the autofocus for talking heads? All the time.
It's on 100% of the
Straight
time.
up all the time. So we were actually, we are living
in the future now. This is the future that we've been talking about since we started, you know, our careers, I guess.
We what was it? It was on Friday or Monday. It was on Friday. We were doing talking heads, just interview stuff. I had the two FX9s up, and then one was on a 35 f2, another one was on a 50 f2, and we're talking about 50 millimeters f2. And you had, like, you know, I mean, I'm sure you all know whenever you do talking head stuff with, like, awkward people that, like, just, you know, they don't know how to be on camera. It's
they
like,
shift their weight.
I know, there's like a lot of like this. It's like, and then the producer who was doing the question, she was like, yeah, I noticed you kind of shifting a lot around this interview. And she, like, looked over to me and she was like, was that okay? And I just looked at Jeremy and I was like,
you're with their Starbucks.
I was just like,
good.
Focus is good. Focus is perfect.
Oh my goodness.
So I use autofocus all the time.
It's so good. And especially Sony's. Like, Sony's is one of the most solid video autofocuses I've ever used.
And you do have to tinker with the settings a little bit. Like, usually what I'll do is I'll set the transition speed all the way to 1, because what I've noticed is that if it is on autofocus and it's at, like, the settings at like 3 or whatever, then the transition speed is how quickly it goes. Basically how quickly the rack is. And so I've noticed if you're at a setting like 3, if you look at the edges, you can kind of see that kind of artificial looking, the bokeh changing.
Yeah.
So that way. And you only really notice it if you're looking right over at the edge of the frame and you're, like, specifically looking for it. But if you're looking at the interview subject, you hardly notice it at all. So I'll set the transition speed to 1, and the rack speed is super slow, so you just don't notice it at all.
Yeah. And that mimics, you know, natural human follow focus pulling too. Because, like, as a person, you would kind of be slower.
Right. Yeah. The number 1 setting is usually the most natural. Let's see. I think the user group of FX6 is very different. I think most people don't buy cinema cameras today mostly for form factor and design. I think that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all about form factor and, like, just general usability. That's why I'm such a huge fan of this camera.
Yeah, which is great. I just like how small the FX9 is compared to, like, how the FS7 used to be, which is what I used before. And the fact that it has all of these features built in, like ports for timecode and Genlock. And
it would be so cool if this camera had timecode.
Dude, oh my God. Oh. Calm down, calm down.
I bet you that's what they're going to leave out of the FX6, because the FS5 did not have timecode. The FX6 probably won't have. If it did have timecode, that would be tight as fuck.
Dude, all cameras should have timecode. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I don't know if all you guys are using timecode, but I started using timecode about 2-3 years ago, and now I never work without it. It's
so easy, and especially, like, because I'm more in the narrative filmmaking side of, like, I guess, talking in terms of usability and ergonomics and stuff like that, and timecode is. I mean, I rely on timecode for a lot of post work, and because I manage a lot of post production work for our stuff.
Don't sleep on timecode.
Yeah, man.
Don't sleep on it. So we're getting some questions on the C70. We've been talking about the C70.
Yeah.
A lot.
Oh man.
What do you think of that camera?
Dude, when I first saw it, I was like, wow, this is pretty fucking cool. Because Canon, to me, feels like lately they've been lagging on their just ideas.
Well, it seems like all of us, like within the past year or two, Canon was like, they were sleeping, and then when they woke up, like they
oh my god,
release all the stuff. I think that the C70 looks super cool.
It looks awesome.
It looks really cool. A couple friends of mine said that they think that it looks really ugly, but like it almost like it looks like a C300 with a
it's like a
C300,
1DC, but like with the
and the cinema line body.
Yeah.
So it's like
Dude.
minus the handle. So
yeah, it has a screen on the back, right? Or no?
Yeah,
it does.
It has a.
But I like the fact that the controls are on the side. Like, dude, I can't tell you how many times the pocket, for example, like when you change the settings, you have to look on the back of the screen. But the way that we operate now, just because, you know, the form factor, it changes the way camera operators operate. And so having controls on the side, have my hand focus, zoom, and then I can just slide back to change controls and look at it like this. And that's why I prefer, you know, camera bodies like the FX9s, because the controls are on the side.
Yeah, and yeah, Canon's, all their latest cameras, they've been killing it. I would be really interested. Like, if I were in the market right now, like, I'm obviously buying a ton of cameras, but if I were in the if I were like looking to upgrade from something, I would seriously consider the C70. That form factor and that it's chunky.
Yeah,
it's definitely chunky, but it's basically like if you have the power of an FX9 and you just kind of squished it down into something a little chunkier than this.
Yeah.
I think the C70 looks
so it would
really
solve
cool.
like overheating issues.
Yeah.
Just because of the form factor.
Well, speaking of overheating, this camera doesn't really do that. And all the shit that
that's
I've
interesting.
seen. So.
Because my A7S II overheated all the time. And mind you, we live in Vegas, and so when you're outside, that's like 120 degrees. And that A7S II, I could not shoot more than 3 minutes at a time standing in the sun at all. And standing in the shade, maybe 5 minutes. Yeah,
like when you're standing in the shade in Vegas, it's still well over 100. So,
yeah, even at 3 a.m.
So I'm not counting on the. So that's another thing too, like different tools for different purposes. So like the FX9, FS7, those lines of cameras, like I've shot with the FS7 plenty of times out in the sun, and that fan starts going. Like I've never heard the FS7 before, but like take it out in a Vegas summer, you'll be
sounding like a red.
You'll be able to hear it. The FX9, the same thing. Like you never have to really worry about overheating. With this guy, I would not bank on this guy lasting in direct sunlight in the summer.
Yep.
That's just my opinion. It's still like
it doesn't matter like how much better the design is. That's still going to be an issue here in our market. So
yeah,
just depends on you, I guess.
If you're in a desert, you know, California too. But you know, it's still pretty hot outside. So I probably will do some tests within the next week to see how that stacks up.
Should try frying an egg on it.
Well, yeah, who knows? Just try frying an egg on your Gemini.
Yeah, that shit gets hot.
Let's see. How I've been using the Pocket 6K a lot. How does the 6K work? Okay, so the 6K, I have two 6Ks, and to be honest, I haven't been using them a ton lately. The reason I got the 6K, basically this camera solves everything that I kind of hate about my 6K. The image quality and all that stuff, the raw, like image quality, ProRes,
it's
like
fucking awesome.
Blackmagic color science, beautiful. Like I love Blackmagic color, but usability is kind of a nightmare. So I bought two 6Ks like about a year ago to kind of fit that smaller kind of lower budget market, because a lot of times producers will come to me asking me, hey, we need a 2-camera package, we need this, that, this, you know, how much? So I'll send over a quote, be like, ooh, it's a little bit much. So that's where the Pocket 6Ks came in. So like it's a cheaper camera, so I'd be able to offer it for a lower rental. So it was kind of designed as my production ready lower budget alternative. But it took so much work to get there, because you needed rails, you needed a battery plate, you needed a decent monitor, you needed audio. It does have a mini XLR and 1/8 inch jack, but if I'm using two full-size Sennheiser mics, then what are you going to do? So you need an A box, you need the whole nine. So that's like that. Like I love those cameras for what they are, but it takes a lot of effort to get them there. So that's why, obviously again, coming back to this camera, I'm really excited for that. Yeah.
Post stuff is also interesting too, because so in your experience, because you have the Mac Pro and you also have a MacBook Pro too,
right.
When you render a video where you've shot XAVC, do you notice any differences in like GPU acceleration or anything like that?
Are you talking about from like FX9 stuff or?
Yeah, so far in your experience. Because
Like,
I notice whenever I shoot on FX9 or FS7 and I'm editing the XAVCI, I edit in Resolve now. I've jumped ship to Resolve, and Resolve's acceleration, it seems like I'm hitting probably 70, 80 frames per second on a render.
I think the max I've seen is like 160.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
So, but
it also depends on what codec you're going to and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But going, with everything else the same, I notice when I'm rendering out Blackmagic RAW footage from the Pocket, it is sometimes faster than the XAVC.
Right. Yeah, and that probably has something to do with the Blackmagic just kind of. They designed the software and the hardware, so
yeah. So
I feel like there's
also
something
consideration, because here's another interesting thing. One of our friends, Adonis, he also has a Pocket 6K, and now he has a Pocket 6K versus GH4 that he was shooting on, or GH5S before, and he switched over completely to the Pocket just because of, Blackmagic RAW's acceleration in Resolve, because he's doing reaction videos and reviews that are it's an hour long or an hour and a half long, and he can knock it out in like a quarter of that time.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, I love me some Pocket 6K, but
which is why I'm interested to see how these codecs fare in post.
And then I will say though, because we did a commercial probably a month or two ago, and I chose to use the Pocket 6K partially because of the reason I mentioned earlier, because of they didn't have a healthy budget. They had a budget. It wasn't like amazing. So I was like, all right, well, I'm not going to bring out FX9, Gemini, whatever like that. So I'll just shoot this on 6K. I noticed a weird, really noise banding issue with mine. So I think there's something wrong with my sensor. So I still need to send it in, which leads me to my next point. I saw a comment in here. The noise issues on the Blackmagic 12K. I've seen like one or two videos. I haven't really kind of dove into that yet. I haven't really peeped game at the 12K. But I have seen some of that floating around. I don't really have any thoughts on it yet though. RAW over HDMI, I have not used it. I do have a Ninja 5 laying around that I'm super interested in trying out.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Is
the firmware already out for it?
Actually, I have no idea. I probably should know. But I have a Ninja 5 sitting around. I've not used it in who knows how long, so maybe it'll kind of breathe new life into that. Never had any overheating issues with your A7S II. Well, move to Vegas, that'll change really quick. The reliability of the ports, yep, those sucked. So, here, obviously you have the wonderful full-size HDMI.
Oh my God. Dude, every camera should have a full-size HDMI.
And Animus, to your comment, yes, I'm on my Sennheiser mics. We're using G4s with COS 11Ds. But yeah, HDMI, that should be a standard for any kind of small mirrorless form factor body.
Oh, you can't fit that in a small form factor. Well, they just did it. They proved you can.
RAW, too.
Yeah.
Is it 16-bit?
What?
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Would I recommend switching out the FX9 default handle for a wooden camera alternative or anything else? I have my own FX9. It depends. When I had the FS7, I use the top record button a lot. So unless you have the like 28 to 135 and you're using that servo zoom, there's no really. Or if you have the K3M or any kind of multi-interface shoe, it might be worth it. But yeah, I don't even use it. I swapped mine out. Have you guys? I'm sure. Yeah, you guys have seen my FX9 rig. It hasn't really changed much. I'm using a lot of wooden camera stuff. A lot of people love complaining about wooden camera. Like, a lot of people love just, oh, it's so expensive. But like, And I mean, I do have my qualms about some wooden camera stuff,
Yeah.
but for the most part, I really enjoy their stuff.
Yeah, they're great for the price.
Actually,
Because if you're complaining wooden camera is expensive, then you haven't bought like film gear, you know?
yeah, it's just different markets and different
different market. And I like their design language, like the way that the ergonomics and the layout of wooden cameras stuff, and the reliance on like the airy anti-twist standard. I use that all the time.
Yeah, so this is basically what mine looks like. I really like this top plate. Bunch of 3/8 with the locating pins, the area standards, 215 mil rods on the top. And so in terms of top handles, this is what I'm using for that. It's just a NATO. And actually, I really like this guy because it just drops in like that, and then once you lock it down, you can loosen this thumb screw here. It's not locked down.
Yeah, man, I hate wooden camera.
You can loosen this guy, and then this guy actually rotates. So I've actually used it, and then my EVF goes through this 15 mil rod. So my monitor's right here. So I've actually used, this is actually coming super handy on a racing gig I was on. I was doing like car stuff, and like, if you guys have ever tried doing like interior car stuff, like handhelds with a body like this, it's not fun at all. So what I was able to do is I was sitting in the passenger seat, and I was able to rotate the whole body like this and have my viewfinder still where it is. So I'm sitting normally. I'm not like breaking my back and I'm able to do that. So that's small stuff like that does go a long way with just kind of general usability.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Yep, got a Mac Pro. That was probably like a little earlier in the year. That was before all this dang COVID stuff started happening. Yeah, I'll probably do a review on it at some point. It's been great because I've primarily been on PC for a long time, so it's been a kind of a refreshing switch. Let's see. Am I planning on using SI or the more compressed codecs? Yes, I do plan on using the XAVC SI. If I ever have the option, I will always use the least compressed codec, which kind of leads me to my next point. I have the Sony UHS-2 cards, but they're like the older like M series with the 300 read, 300 write. And I don't think they work on the A7S II, which is super annoying because apparently you need like a V60 or V90 card, but it has the same read write, so it's like it drives me crazy that that's a thing. But I did pre-order. I ordered like 6 of the new CFast Express Type A cards because
I'm excited about those.
Those cards, those newer cards, they're super expensive, but to me, like, oh my gosh, 800 read and write. 800,
that's insane.
That's twice as fast as a Sony XQD.
That's faster than a standard SSD.
That's faster than a mini mag, a red mini mag.
Yeah.
A red mini mag tops out at like what, 400?
Yeah, well, the mini mag depends on the reader because the mini mag itself goes up to 2800. So it's just because I've used Thunderbolt 3 readers dumping to an SSD RAID in RAID 0. I've hit like maybe 1200, 1500.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I guess it just depends.
Yeah.
But yeah, 800. Like you're talking about, those speeds are super fast. I can dump an entire 160 gigabyte card in minutes.
Dude, that's. Oh my God. Calm down.
So that's the reason I'm really excited for those cards.
Man. It finished dumping before you even wrap.
Before I put my camera in my 1510. I will probably always use the XAVCI codec. But for now, since I don't have those cards yet, I'll have to use the kind of more compressed ones. I think it's the HS. I really need to dig into those. There's like the 2 new compressions. Well, what do I think about the A7S 3-color science when it comes to skin tones? I think it's interesting. So the FX9, I feel like, has leaned really kind of green heavy. Like Sony's kind of pushed their cameras more, at least the FX9, pushed it really to the green side. And
that Alexa look.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's more kind of, it has that filmic look, that cinematic look. But it's interesting because whenever I bring the image into into grade and I grade it, I notice the grain, but I don't mind it. I'll still usually take it out anyway, but like as a starting point, like it's kind of really just appealing, and I don't know, I really enjoy it.
Yeah, clients complain less about green than they do about magenta. And
this camera, I feel, leans probably a little bit more magenta, maybe just a tad. I'll need to do like a kind of more of a true side-by-side, and I will. But I think Sony's skin tones on their newer cameras have been, to me, significantly better. And then I remember I did get a question like a week or two ago asking like how I felt about basically this camera being able to do everything the FX9 camera does. And I think there is still something to be said about FX9's sensor and the way it renders colors, because it does such a good job. Like just its color rendition is just
the fidelity, the roll off,
and it's so accurate. And to me, I'm obviously a huge fan of it. So I think once you get into kind of those nitty gritty details, I think then that's when you'll start to see more of those differences.
And that's just skin tones out the box. Like obviously, if you're grading your footage anyway, you can adjust it yourself.
Sorry about this interference. Yeah, we're using the G4s. Sorry. Let's see. Yep, rotating handle, super good. The Zcam, I've seen them float around. I know a lot of people starting to get those. I don't really have any thoughts on them. I haven't used them, but they're basically.
It's cool.
Yeah, they're like, I guess, poor man's reds, which, I mean, at this point, like.
Isn't a pocket of poor man's red?
Yeah, you can. There's a bunch of poor man's reds, so, they're cool. Let's see. Easy Rig, got your. Oh, congrats on the Easy Rig. Yep, Easy Rig will go a long way with protecting that back.
Yep, do it now.
Am I making? Yes, I do. Well, I already have it. I don't know if you've seen it. I already do have an Easy Rig video, Cameron, but it's on the Vario 5. I did get the newer stable arm. I actually really don't like it, but since then they've made a version 2 of that arm. So I want to get that arm in first before I actually do a video on the stable arm. Best camera to get in the $1,000 to $2,000 range besides Blackmagic. I gotta think about that one.
Yeah, for doing what? Like just this kind of stuff?
It depends on what you're shooting.
Because that A7 III or A7 IV that they announced too? Oh, no, dude, did you see the A7C?
The A7C
that looks interesting.
Pretty interesting.
Which came out of nowhere.
It's tough. It's tough because bang for the buck, Blackmagic, I think will always be the way to go.
Yeah.
The image quality that you get out of that thing is unparalleled. But like, as I said, it takes a lot of effort to get there.
To me, and I mean, I'm talking from my experience, where when you're first starting out, it seems to me it's better to aim for best image quality, or at least the tools to get the best image quality, so that you can form a better looking reel. Because at that point, you're just learning the pros and cons of whatever tool you're getting. Like Blackmagic, there's a lot of things that you need to understand to work around it, but once you do, it makes you a better filmmaker, because now you can take what you learned to other cameras that are easier to use, and now it's just like, it's like taking your weights off.
Yeah, it's like trial by fire. So it's like once you get put through the ringer, and then get your hands on like a really nice camera, you'll be good. That's a really hard question to answer. $1,000 range without going Blackmagic. I guess it just really depends on what you're doing with it, what you're planning on shoot.
The C70.
Well, how much is that camera going to be?
I don't know.
I don't even know. I haven't looked that deep into it. Otherwise I'd probably buy one. Am I planning on doing a comparison video? Yeah, I do want to do some sort of comparison. And I don't know how in depth I want to get, because like, again, I actually, one of the videos I'm planning on doing in the future is kind of my full FX9 review, and I don't like putting in, like, with YouTube, like, if you're not first, you're last. So it's like a lot of people will get their reviews out and they'll you see this all the time with camera reviews. You'll have people, all right, check out my whatever camera review.
Yeah.
Just look at all my test footage. And
First look.
It's like them in the backyard, like filming a fountain. And it's like, dude, are you kidding me? First of all, you have no professional experience with this camera, like actually on set. You're filming a damn fountain in your backyard. How does it work?
How are you using it?
So like that's why I don't like doing reviews as soon as I get cameras. Like I like spending an ample amount of time with them before I actually deliver any kinds of thoughts with them. So that's why I'm starting to kind of formulate kind of a well-versed opinion, my own opinion on the FX9. So I'm hoping to have that out probably by the end of the year. But to answer your question, yes, I do want to do some sort of comparison between the two cameras. It might even be worth it to challenge myself to bring these two, like an A/B camera out to an actual job, and see how well they match. Maybe we'll do that on Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah, Blackmagic's great for film students and budding cinematographers.
This is definitely best bang for your buck.
Off-topic question: any advice for getting more commercial work? How do you get more commercial work?
Jeez.
A lot of that probably has to do with spec ads.
Yeah.
A lot of that too is just like a lot of the work that I get is
because people hire you off of either your reel, your website, or from word of mouth. And if you don't have the word of mouth yet or the network, then you have to make your own reel. And to make your own reel, you're not getting the work. It's a cycle. It's a vicious cycle. So you have to shoot your own stuff.
It's like when you see all those people like applying for job applications. It's like you need 5 years of experience using the software, even though the software has been out for 2 years.
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
And it's a starting position.
Yeah. So do a lot of spec work and kind of develop your reel that way. And then also for me, I get a lot of the work just by knowing people.
Shoot the stuff that you want to be working with. Like, don't just shoot anything and try and take any job. I mean, when you're first starting out, you do what you have to do. But when you're starting to establish yourself, I feel like it would be more beneficial down the line. Maybe not at the moment, but down the line, you shoot the stuff, the spec work that you want to shoot as your career.
And don't sleep on a good website. Good websites are super important. I oftentimes I'll ask producers like, so how did you find, I'll be working on this job. I'm like, so how did you find me? Well, you got a good website. And it's like, I don't think I'm first on Google when you if you Google Las Vegas cinematographer. I don't think I'm first, but I'm up there.
On the front page.
I'm on the front page. And also, if you go to the other websites, they're not great. So,
okay.
I think I'm up there with Clayton. Clayton is a good buddy of mine. He does really good work. Another guy, Sammy, I think he's up there. He doesn't even shoot anymore. So I'm like, dude, it's like
take the website down, man.
Website down. I just worked with him last week. Anyways, yeah. So there's that. Please use an ND filter for the comparison. Higher quality lens. Yeah, I'll probably use. If I do any sort of comparison, I'll probably try to use the same lens, same NDs, all that good stuff. If it's worth it to save a C300 Mark III or just get a C70, coming from a C100 Mark II. Damn, that's at this point, what's that? A 6-year-old camera?
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Still great.
That's a killer camera on that.
Dude, that 1080p on that C100.
Yeah, because it was 4K.
Oh my god.
It's some of the best. But in terms of, it depends. I guess it depends on what work you're doing right now. If you're doing, for me, I would personally probably lean towards a C300 just because you have the full size XLRs, all that fun stuff.
It depends on what you want to do later on, because if you're getting sometimes it's hard to think of these purchases as oh, this is what I want to do versus that's a better business decision. So
yeah, that's
C300 that gets rentals. C70.
Oh yeah, Canon. There have been. It's interesting. So that's one of the big reasons I'm kind of full-fledged Sony at this point. And I'm not a Sony fanboy by any means. I just like using their cameras. I still will love using Canon cameras. But I will say that here in Vegas and a lot of other places in the world, the Sonys get rented all the time. For doc work, for production work, you'll see FS7s just about anywhere.
Yeah. So more or less than Canon? I don't know, but it gets the work.
Probably a little bit. I would say more, from me personally.
Depends on the city.
In my experience, yeah. I've had a handful of shows or jobs that I've been on where they've specifically asked for Canon. But like, oh, I have an FS7. No, they're looking for all cameras to be Canon. I was like, all right, that's cool. And I loved using the C300 Mark II.
Yeah, it's a great camera.
Yeah, and
it seems in my experience, whenever I get asked for Canon, it's LA gigs, and Sony gigs are Vegas. But that's me, you know. I'm just one.
Yeah, in Vegas, you get a lot of like kind of productions rolling through that are usually. I mean, there's a lot of back when things were normal. There's a lot of corporate work and there's a lot of kind of doc work, and back then, because when the FS7 came out, in the olden days, the Sony's bang for buck. So like, why I think that happened is because when the FS7 came out, it came out at what, $8,000. When the C300 Mark II came out, similar camera,
twice the price,
16 grand. So all the production companies, all right, we're going with Sony because it's cheaper, and for what it did, it was amazing. So
because it shot 4K 60,
and so everyone got used to using Sony. So whenever we travel anywhere, we're gonna rent the Sonys.
That's why you jumped over, right, in the first place.
Kind of. Yeah, actually, yeah, it was because it did 4K 60, 10-bit 422. That was one of the big reasons I went to upgrade it to the FS7. Well, let's see. What do you want to work? Do you want financing gear or purchasing cash? I've only
so you got two sides of the coin there.
I've only financed one piece of gear in my career, and that has been my lenses, which I have like 3 months left on the Vista Primes. So those are, but everything else I've always done cash, and it's a beautiful thing when something's paid off. Let me tell you.
Yeah,
but
it is.
at the end of the spectrum, I mean, it also depends on what you're trying to buy. Like, are you trying to buy like an Alexa, or are you trying to buy a Gemini? Like, it kind of really depends there. Let's see, Komodo a7S III. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to shoot? That's kind of the default answer. It's like, what are you trying to shoot? The red Komodo's cool. Like, I think it's a little bit overhyped, and I can't stand it. People are just like
still
gushing.
in beta.
I mean, that's any red product. Like, remember when the freaking cell phone
red.
came out? The cell phone came out. You went
hydrogen.
to when it was announced. And you went to the Red user forums, and you had people just take my money. I haven't even seen it, but just take my money. It's like, and that's another thing I want to talk about in the future. Just Red culture. Not saying that anyone who uses Reds is like that, but some
Red culture is just a little more prominent, but every brand has that culture too, you know. Yeah.
Let's see. Information from Cinezoom, 10K max. Started doing research. I know Epic Light Media. I know he got a Cinezoom. I think it's from China, but it was like a budget.
Suggestion?
Yeah.
Dude, you should look at those DZO film Cinezooms, because those are really interesting. And if you're in the market for a Cinezoom and you're looking at like the Sigma rehoused like 18 to 35 and the 50 to 100, you should take a serious look at those DZO film zooms, because they basically fill that same niche, except they're built for cinema. So it's parfocal, like it has all the benefits of being a cinema zoom instead of a rehoused photo lens.
Let's see.
Also, if you're on E-mount, those Fujinon MKs, dude, I love those.
Those are cool. Those are cool.
I love those.
I will say though, I am glad I didn't get one, because I do have FX9, because it's full frame.
Yeah.
But you could obviously you could still go into Super 35 mode, but
you're not gonna find like budget, cinema zooms that cover full frame.
Depends on what lens mount you're looking for.
Yes, that is also true.
Yeah, I think it depends on, like, those MK zooms. I rented them 3 years ago for a couple jobs, and they're super nice.
Yeah.
I will be sure not to use a clickbait title. Phil Bloom, if you're watching, I heard you. Let's see. All right. The clients usually trust me when I'm renting cameras. Usually, I don't really. I mean, that's kind of the reason I have so many cameras, is I can kind of present different options. It's primarily a budget-based decision, which is sometimes like not.
It's not best for the job.
It's not optimal, right?
Yeah.
It's never going to be optimal. But for the most part, I am able to present different options, and like I have A7S, FX9, pockets, so kind of whatever budget, like, you know, just put me to work. I have already C300 Mark II for shoot and loved it. DP greatly under. Yeah, you know, Canon Ergonomics, I think are, you know, Sony could probably take a note or two from Canon Ergonomics and just button layout and usability. The really,
layout on the C300 is great. I love that layout. If Sony adopted it for the FS7 back then, like that would have been cool. But, you know, learning curve, again, understand your tools.
From Gardo.
Oh, I financed a lot of my gear, by the way. I forgot to mention.
Oh yeah, so speak about that. So like, what were some of the, you know, decision making behind that, rather than paying cash?
Well, when I first started out, I was trying to run two different paths at the same time because I have my position is a little different, I feel like, than a lot of other, you know, owner ops and stuff. Because when I first started out, I was doing a YouTube channel. I mean, that's my main gig, by the way. Freelancing is actually a side thing, which is interesting to note because when you're starting out doing YouTube, you're not making money. You're doing it just to build your brand and your person and stuff like that. And so for me, I wasn't getting that revenue to be buying cash, you know, buying gear out of pocket. So I had to finance a basic set of stuff so I can actually just get started. And that was just like applying for, you know, credit cards and stuff like that and putting it on cards. And which, by the way, if you guys buy a lot of stuff from B&H, their Paybu card is actually really dope because you get all the sales tax back, which, you know, if you're buying gear like this, you're saving like $200-300 on that.
Yeah, I spent a lot on taxes.
Yeah, so just something to take note of because, like, for me, when I was starting the YouTube channel with my friend Danny, we didn't have any money, and we're a filmmaking company. You know, your service and your content is to produce videos, and when you don't have the gear to do that, then what? You know, you can't do your job.
Yeah, it's interesting if you want to become an owner operator versus, you know, there's always the debate of whether or not you should own gear. So whenever I purchase gear, I always approach it from a business perspective and a kind of a business motivated decision. So like for me, it's all about renting, being able to purchase stuff that will be able to be rented out.
Yeah, because now you're owning an asset, not just a liability.
Right. So, you know, starting to slowly become more of a rental house.
Which is why all the stuff that I did put on credit was only stuff that I know I could make money back on.
Good. Yeah, that's a good point there. Yeah, so Tanner, that's a good point. This has kind of morphed into a Q&A. Any chance we'll see the A7S III hooked up to the stream? Well, surprise. You're looking at it.
You got two of these.
So I have two A7Ss, and we'll go ahead and pan over. The second angle has been a FX9, and can you adjust exposure on that FX9 over there? So our A camera has been an A7S II, this A7S III this whole time, and our B camera is the FX9. So surprise there. So didn't mean to kind of dupe y'all there, but hey, it's all about the spectacle. So actually, I'll kind of walk you through this too, really quick, really briefly. So I know it's kind of a little tight. So we have the A7S III here. We're using the Sony Zeiss 50 millimeter. And so that 4-bay battery kind of pack that I was talking about earlier. So this is actually a charger, but it'll charge 4 Sony batteries at once. But you can also, it has a dummy battery, so you can plug that into the camera and actually use 4 of these batteries to actually power the camera. So that's what we're doing right now. And you can see it's just been sitting here for, you know, about an hour, and I still have full batteries on just about all of them. So I love this guy. I've had it for a few years, and just for being able to charge multiple batteries at once. In the back here, I just have a C box. So basically, I'm going HDMI into the C box so I can get a SDI signal out, and this is running all the way into my switcher. That's also another thing to note, that I usually tend to not try using HDMIs if I don't have to. So HDMI into C-Box converted into SDI. So yeah, we're using that right now. And then the look you're looking at right now, I'll go back over. You're actually looking at so this is actually technically S-Log3. This is S-Log3, and we're going into a small HD monitor, which is outputting an S709 LUT. And on the FX9, we're actually using Cinetone for more of a Rec 709 look. So you tell us, like, how did these two cameras cut side by side? Dan, thank you for the super chat. That's my very first super chat.
Whoa!
Wow.
Look at that.
Thank you for this. Just for that super chat, I'll start selling LUTs. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Buy his LUT pack.
Buy my LUT pack, please. Too many of your jobs require you actually have the equipment. Usually production will, well, it depends. I will say the easy answer is that it's easy if you actually just own the gear, which is why I own so much gear. But for the most part, yes, it depends on the production. Easy answer.
I'd say when you're starting out, you should own the gear just purely because you have it full time with you to learn and practice.
Yeah.
When you're just renting, you don't have that time.
Yeah, that's why I love owning gear. Like, so then we can just really get a deep dive into knowing the cameras. A lot of people love complaining about Sony menus. Which, speaking of that, we'll talk about these Sony menus in a second. But a lot of people love to hate on Sony menus. But like, we know Sony menus like the back of our hand because we own that gear, so we're able to just
can operate
sit
it
around while we're watching
closed.
If you get a new piece of gear, just turn on the Office and just like mess with the menus, just like okay.
Same with the button layout on the bodies too.
Yeah, so that was a kind of nice little reveal there. So so this is S-Log3 with the S709 LUT, and then B camera there is Cinetone.
Is the LUT on the recorder side?
So I'm going SDI into the small HD monitor, and then it's outputting the LUT to the feed.
So essentially a LUT box in between. Dude, it would be so cool if these bodies had the ability to load LUTs. Oh my god. We can customize our own profile.
Oh man, that would be super cool.
Yeah. One day. That's the one thing that they left out.
Yeah, that would be super cool. It does have gamma display assist, which is like, I have so many. Man, I wish they were a little bit more. I wish Sony was a little bit more telling about how they're using gamma display assist, because it is like some sort of LUT, but it's not the same LUT as S709.
I think it's Rec 709 at 800%.
It's just like a transform.
Yeah.
I wish you were able to tweak that. I wish, instead of gamma display assist, I wish we had the ability to kind of display a LUT. That would be really cool. Yeah, invoice year, got the Amira, paid it back in less than a year. Yep, same. Yep, it's with rentals. It's all about being able to rent stuff. Like that's why I got the second FX9, because lately I've been getting asked for a lot of 2-camera stuff. So I decided, okay, well,
you gotta think about it like a business.
My first one's already paid off, and I'm already ahead of basically everyone else that's still using FS7s or whatever. So I'm still I still have, this camera still has what, 7-8 years left to go, and it's already been paid off in the first year. So let's see, the battery charger. That battery charger is called, I don't know. What's that battery charger called? It's crazy. I thought it was just both FX9s. Well, I guess then they match pretty good.
There you go.
What we got? What kind of letter combination we got? What's the cheat code?
NPA MQZ1.
MPA. What's that? Say again.
NPA MQZ1.
MPA FQ
MQ.
MQZ1.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's like Simon Says.
Yeah, right. Dude, USB-C on this? That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's another thing too. So and Tanner, to your point earlier, this kind of evolved into kind of more so Q&A, but I still am going to do kind of sort of a live demo here in a sec. But that kind of leads me to my next point. It's like, I kind of want to start doing kind of regular, maybe weekly streams. I know I put out a poll a few days ago, and a bunch of you kind of responded that would be pretty interesting. So that's kind of another thing that I'm kind of really excited for this camera is that like I can do just kind of more so informal, like weekly stream, Q&A, whatever. So I've always wanted to do some sort of ongoing stream, but I've never really had some kind of motivation to do that. Let's see. Yeah, gamma displays is absolute garbage. Yeah, I hate using a gamma display assist, especially on the FX9. Yeah. Like, you know, I'll use it just to show client playback. So if I shoot something in log, obviously I'm not going to show them log. I have a hotkey where I just turn on gamma display assist, and I hate looking at it, but I'll just like, all right, here, just look at it.
Install that with the monitor.
Yeah, so in the eventual cameras, I'd love to see a short section talking about matching with 8-bit cameras. Yeah, that'd be interesting. And actually, this does have an 8-bit setting on here too, so it might be worth it even just to do it straight off here. So yeah, we are going to reset for about 10 minutes. We're going to kind of move everything off to the side, and what we're going to do is put these two cameras, the FX9 and A7S III, we're going to put them side by side, and then we're going to pull them into a multi-view so we can literally see them side by side in the same frame, so we can kind of tinker around the settings and see how they match. We did a little bit, just a tiny, very kind of lightheartedly try to match these two cameras, but we didn't really try that. So give us about 10 minutes, and I saw there was a question here about our lighting setup. You'll get to see that here in a sec. So give us 10 minutes, and we'll get back to you.
There you go.
All right, stand by. All right, we are back. So we have this really kind of simple setup. So this is basically, this is the FX9 right here, this guy. This is the A7S. And right now, this one is in Cinetone, and this one is just straight up 0 picture profile. So obviously it's gonna look different, and as I look at it, exposure might be a little off, so maybe let's dial this in. Should use a waveform. Maybe something like that. So remember what I was saying earlier about the FX9 kind of being a little bit more greener. You can kind of definitely see that now, at least I do. You're colorblind, what do you see?
Well, I see mainly a contrast difference.
Mm-hmm.
But I can definitely see a bit more green in the highlights of my skin.
Let's see.
And I normally can't really see green that well. I'm red-green colorblind. I mean, really the whole spectrum, but most strongly red-green. That's why I use my scopes.
Using them scopes. So let me see what adjusting the white balance does on the FX9. So right now we have the sky panel set to 3200. Changing? Oh, there it is. I got the wrong one.
No, maybe you look like Thanos. Do it.
Let's see. Let's maybe even come up. So let's cycle through some of these picture profiles, see what we get. So this is 1, 2. Actually, I can't even see them. Oh, that's actually kind of similar.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? I don't know if this is on Cinetone. This isn't on Cinetone. I've been lying to you this whole time. Got him.
Gypped him.
Stand by. All right, we're gonna lose picture for a sec. Maybe not. This.
That's Cinetone.
Let me maybe come up a little bit. So now, actually, I'm gonna put you at. Let's see. So again, left is A7S, right is FX9. Completely different settings right now. We're just kind of cycling through them. Test log. So let me turn them off. So this is no picture profile. And let me adjust the white balance. So right now I think these are both the same white balance. Very interesting. Definitely see how FX9 leans green. I actually really like just the, I almost prefer the A7S. I mean, it's just straight out of camera, honestly.
Yeah. So that's picture profile off?
That's just straight up off. The FX9 leans green, but then, you know, as we said, naturally, this camera naturally leans green. So I wonder what would happen if we just even did maybe a white balance. You can do custom white balances on these guys, yeah?
Theoretically.
Let's see.
You mean like auto white balance?
Like, yeah, like a gray card. How do you do that? Do you know how to do that?
I've never used
been
that
so long
on
since
the
I've used these cameras.
A7S too.
Gotta learn that boy again.
Yeah.
Yeah, what does that give me? Yeah, it's almost like if you were just to drag your tint slider
Oh, a little bit. Yeah.
over to the right
Just
a little bit.
little nudge. Interesting.
So A7S3, A7S3 on the left, we're at an ISO of 320. And then FX9, we're at an ISO of 640. both at an f2. It's actually not bad. It looks like I'm looking at it on a small monitor, but it almost looks like the A7S is a little sharper, just out of camera. What do you guys think?
I think that can be true, because doesn't the A7 bodies have its own anti-aliasing filter? They're like different from what, their documentary cameras have.
Yeah, Cameron, that Brandon Lee video in his picture profile, I really liked his setup. He had no picture profile and he just kind of tweaked the settings. I really like the straight out of camera FX9 or the A7S. I wonder what highlights look like. So, let me see. Let me turn this guy on.
Let the people see.
I thought these would be highlights. I just want to add this. To light this, we're using a SkyPanel S60 at 3200 Kelvin. Yeah, it's definitely more green. Gosh, that no picture profile looks so good. It looks so good.
Yeah. From what I can tell from here.
I'm just
That autofocus. Put in work.
actually come a little bit closer to camera.
Because when you're shooting someone who's not used to being in interviews.
Because you can. Keep in mind it's at an f2. Yeah, just looking at the FX9 viewfinder, it looks way, obviously there's no picture profile, but it looks just super desaturated compared when you look at the A7S. Let's try, maybe I can mess with the paint settings. So if I go here, I actually don't really mess with paint all that much. Hey, there you go, there's a look. So let me just try a white balance. Hold this guy up. This white box. So that's putting me at around 28. Does that look a lot cooler? Yeah.
Yeah. It'd be so much easier if I wasn't colorblind.
I'm gonna turn this around really quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got that green kind of tint to it. And the A7S is definitely sharper. I don't know if you guys can see that on the stream, but it just out of camera, it is definitely sharper. I'm gonna go back to preset. And again, you're obviously looking at two different picture profiles. Actually, let me go switch to log, see what that looks like.
Is the A7S II downsampling from a larger?
Yeah, because 4K it's a 12 megapixel sensor, so I think there's some in there. All right, so this, put the box down. So that's S-Log 3. And this is S-Log 3. That doesn't look very flat to me, honestly. Just my Y balance. Does that look right? Am I tripping? Okay, yeah. Yeah, so this is both S-Log 3. They're both set to 3200 Kelvin. Definitely more magenta. But I mean, this is all in line with what I've noticed with FX9 footage. Interesting.
And this is 3200 Kelvin.
3200 Kelvin. Yeah, the A7S III colors are hair better. Yeah, I mean, this is all just straight out of camera, so it's interesting. Yeah, Michael looks super good out of camera. Yeah, we actually do a lot of baked in, like that production company that we were talking about. All their stuff is all baked in.
See that rack?
I know. Might do it again. Yeah, we do a lot of baked-in work too, so I'm actually really impressed with just the no picture profile. That's honestly, it's probably what I'll probably use.
No hands.
It's what I'll probably use for all that stuff. So yeah, it's very interesting. Like just looking at these two cameras side by side, one is like astronomically bigger than the other.
Yeah.
I wonder if that'll show. Come on, autofocus. This one's set to the slow setting.
Yeah, footprint. Close.
Yeah, so still some very minor color differences. And again, I don't think Sony made it so that it's supposed to be an exact match. Obviously, that wouldn't make any sense. But still,
It would be nice.
it would be nice. That I'd be interested in seeing how the FX6 handles side by side to the FX9.
You now pull an FS5 versus FS7 where it's like just completely different.
The blacks on the A7. Yeah, that's what Orlando. What's up, my dude? So yeah, we did notice that when we were setting up the stream, that the black levels were very, very, very black on the A7. And I don't know if that's because the FX9 has more shadow detail, or I'm not sure. They were really black, but they also looked really crushed. But I couldn't really take a very analytical look at it. Let's see.
I wonder if that has something to do with the output of, like the way the A7S III processes its output ports.
So we'll go over to daylight. So this is just dialing in the custom white balance. Oh, these were adjusted a little bit maybe. So this is daylight, 5500 Kelvin. A7S, now on FX9, dialing up 255. How's that look? That looks closer, actually. The FX9 looks maybe a little bit warmer. Let's go back into Cinetone, actually.
Yeah, that FX9 is bright.
In terms of exposure.
Yeah. So what is this?
That's Cinetone on FX9. And my picture profile.
Air brake.
The A7. Yeah.
Is it me or the A7S is more saturated?
Probably. Yeah, because I mean, zero picture profile. You're just looking to straight up get some spice out of camera. One thing we're not really getting from this though is any kind of how well the highlights are being retained. So stay subscribed. Wait for my comparison video.
All right.
But yeah, that So this one I would buy the FX9 image a little bit more here. This one I might prefer the FX9. The magenta on the A7 is nice, but it's maybe a little bit too magenta, too warm. It kind of leans on that warmer side. It's still nice, but I think under daylight. So it's interesting to see how both cameras respond differently to different color environments. But yeah, I think, Orlando, to your point, I'm pretty sure that's why the A7's black level is so low, is because the FX9 has so much dynamic range that it's just digging deeper into the shadow. So you're retaining more shadow information. So I'm pretty sure that's why the black levels are a little bit different. Let's see. In terms of noise reduction, possibly. Noise reduction affecting the black level. Maybe. I don't think, not as much, I don't think. Noise reduction doesn't really play. And I mean, at this point, I think the A7 is at like ISO, 200? So it's like you're not really going to see any noise there at all, if that. Actually, one thing I'd be interested in doing, just so we're here, let's see how they do low light. All right, let's crank it.
Yeah. All the lights have actually been off at this point.
Yeah, we actually haven't
currently.
used any lighting.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna need to step down.
16.
Put me at like 1% on the sky panel.
1%. You brought the wrong light.
All right, this is ISO 800 on the A7, 1600, 3200, 6400, 12,800.
I want everything in focus.
How does that look?
12,800.
So this camera right here is 12,800.
No.
F16. Wow.
That's insane.
That's pretty wild. Let's do the same thing with the FX9. So
12,800.
That still looks icy.
You mean 800? Extra 12,000 in there?
So this is 12.8 on the FX9. How's exposure looking on both of them?
It's pretty close.
Close?
Yeah.
So now both of these cameras are at 12,800. Well, you can definitely see a little bit, digging in the shadows on the FX9.
Yeah.
On the A7S, it looks like the A7S is having some trouble with focus. I don't know if that's because it's at a smaller f-stop, but
It probably is.
And you can definitely see a little bit of dancing in there. But in terms of overall fidelity, I feel like the FX9 still has a slight edge. Because once you start cranking up that noise reduction on the A7, you start to get a little bit of those fuzzies.
I wonder how it looks like on stream, because we're looking at the monitor.
Yeah, we're looking at a nice monitor. You guys are looking at a very compressed stream, so. So 3 lenses on.
Yeah, on the
so
FX9.
In terms of lenses, we are using the Zeiss 35-1.4 and the Zeiss 50-1.4. And the FX9 is set to Super 35 mode, so it's a little bit more of a similar field of view. Neil, thanks for those settings. I'll try those in a little bit. Tanner, yeah, I've seen a lot of people talking about this dual bass thing. I don't buy it. I think it's just when the noise reduction kicks in. I think Gerald just said dual bass ISO one time and everyone just started freaking out, but I don't buy that there's a dual bass ISO in this camera. Why is it so difficult? White balance and skin tones to match, contrast, similar to both. Yeah, for sure it'd be way easier to match them in log, but for the purpose of the stream, we're just looking to get just kind of standard standard Rec 709 look. But yeah, pretty interesting tests, especially at 12,800. I have no idea. Again, I have no idea what this looks like on the stream, but on this big monitor, it's not bad. So yeah, I mean that's about all we wanted to cover. If there's anything else you guys want to see specifically, we'll try it. But again, I'll probably end up doing some sort of more in-depth kind of prepared comparison video. But other than that, that's what we got. Yeah, I actually think I might take these out on the job we have on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Put it through its paces. Yeah, interesting. Tight and right.
Tight and right. It's awesome.
What do you think, Mike?
Spicy.
Very spice.
It's pretty spicy. Cool. Here, let me see. Maybe we can get like one on you, one on me. Improving right now. I'm definitely under. Something like that, something rather.
Oh shit.
I don't know what we're doing. I don't know what's going on.
What do I do with my hands?
Anyways, thanks everyone for coming and stopping by on the stream. It was kind of fun. Again, I'll probably do another kind of more informal Q&A probably this weekend. That's another one of the things I'm planning on doing with the A7S is to kind of use that, because right now at this point I've been basically my full-time YouTube camera has been the FX9, but it gets annoying. First world problems.
Oh man.
It gets annoying when I have to prep them for a job the next day or whatever. So it'll be nice having a small little Sony boy that I can just whip out on a whim. So.
Little Sony boys.
Yeah, it'd be cool. So yeah, look out for another stream probably next Sunday, something like that. And I'll probably have more thoughts after we've brought this on a couple jobs, the A7S II. This is the FX9, by the way, on the right and the left. It's the A7S. Exposure's probably just not matching at all, but you can get a sense of skin tones actually. Actually, let's maybe do a two-shot.
Okay.
Here, back up a little bit?
Dude, that autofocus. This is the future.
Interesting. Yeah, definitely more saturated on the A7S, but yeah, we'll have more thoughts. I'll have more thoughts on Sunday. So, again, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Where can they find you? And you guys just did a cool new little project.
Oh man.
Yeah, if you guys peep game at the Teradek RT review, that was on Ismahawk's on the video.
Yeah, that was our latest video with Death Battle, Red Hood versus Winter Soldier. Yeah.
So yeah, peep game at the Teradek RT review. It's a great follow focus, despite a few quirks, but yeah, it was fun.
Awesome.
Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.